All right, welcome back, everybody, here at the Xfinity Sports Report, your Colorado High School connection. Brian Roth back with it. Well, we saw all the highlights from 4A and 5A basketball. It's time to break it all down. And to do that, we bring in Brock Laue from Rivals.com, also writes for ChassinNow.com. Brock, great to have you. A ton of information to get to, a ton of games to get to. Let's start in 5A. And yesterday, the biggest upsets of the tournament, Smoky Hill taking down a 2 seed in Regis Jesuit. Did you see that coming?
I actually saw that being a pretty tough game for Regis. Smoky Hill is upset Rangeview, Arapahoe. They took down Grandview, beat Cherry Creek twice. They've really, even though they were only 13-10 this year and had some tough games in the Centennial League, they showed the ability to beat some of the top teams. So they're senior-laden team. They've got some talent, and yeah, I saw that being a tough game for Regis.
Yeah, that's a Regis team that obviously played in the tough league in that Continental League, but it goes to show you just how tough the Centennial League was this year. 5 teams left now in the Sweet 16. Now, the other upset, you can call it an upset. Ralston Valley, out of the Jefferson County League, goes up to Fort Collins, a game you were at, and they win it on a last-second shot as they beat the Lambkins in a low-scoring affair. Yeah,
in the second half, Ralston Valley just played very smothering defense. They held Fort Collins to only 15 points and forced a lot of turnovers. Their guards, Bryn Finfrock and Andrew Wingard, were really effective all game. And they've got a talented 6'9" sophomore named Dallas Walton, who's bouncy, athletic, and he did really well on the glass and gave Fort Collins big man Toby Van Rye some trouble. So they just found a way to win, and it was a great game by Ralston Valley and great game plan going in. So
yeah, and Dallas getting some Division I looks and held his own against Van Rye. Van Rye, of course, going to Colorado State, only had 11 points in that contest. So for the Jefferson County League, they sent 3 now to the Sweet 16. Meanwhile, at the Fort Collins loss, they were one of several Front Range teams that got bounced in the round of 32. 6 of the 7 teams lost. 1 Front Range team left. That's Fossil Ridge. All right, Denver East gets the big victory over Fairview, and you know, again, that's I think what a lot of people saw coming. You were at the game. Let me ask you: you've seen East plenty of times this year. Are they still the team to beat in 5A?
I think they are, because they haven't always put it all together for 4 quarters each game, but when they do, they're nearly unbeatable in this state because they have arguably the 2 best players in the state, in Dom Collier and Ronnie Harrell, and nobody has a starting 5 like them. And I think they may have learned last year as juniors after getting upset in the state title game.
Yeah, Denver East is going to take on Grand Junction coming up in the Sweet 16 on Wednesday. Now, again, they're without one of their key pieces right now, and Tyree Robinson got suspended. Tyree, Rudy Carey telling us here this past week, as we mentioned, should be back for the grade 8 if East can get past Grand Junction. So, you know, I think we've established that Denver East is the team to beat, Brock, and I think they are. I think they are the most talented team in the entire state. Now, the question is who can challenge them. You've seen Mountain Vista a bunch this year. You've seen Fossil Ridge a bunch this year. And then Overland is playing as well as anybody. Can any of those 3 teams make a run and knock off the Angels?
Yeah, I think Mountain Vista, even more than Fossil Ridge, just a little bit, might have a better chance of taking them down in the state title game, just because Mountain Vista's offense is as good as any in the state. They're a phenomenal passing team. Jake Pemberton, a Denver recruit, is a great playmaker, one of the best in the state, and he's got tons of weapons around him. And they were really battle-tested in the Continental League, and they still found a way to go undefeated. Pretty impressive feat in the Continental. So they've really got the pieces, but of course Fossil Ridge has been there all year too. Well.
Let me ask you, how much will their conference hurt them?
It might hurt them a little bit, just because the Front Range is decent, but not as strong as the Continental and Centennial, and they haven't gotten tested very much in a long time like all the teams in the Continental and Centennial. So it definitely may hurt them in a close game that they haven't been used to.
Yeah.
So.
And then again, I mentioned Overland, and I've had a chance to see Overland play, probably 4 or 5 times here this year. And they struggled at the start of the season, but talking to Danny Fisher late in the year, and he said, hey, we had a sophomore head coach, speaking of himself, and a bunch of sophomores on the team. He said, we had high expectations coming in. We just didn't think we lived up to those, and we didn't handle the pressure that came with that. But as the season has gone along, Overland has been terrific. And again, they win that Centennial League. Austin Conway is fabulous. Taryn Williams, outstanding. Of course, Deron Davis is Deron Davis. They have an inside presence. Overland might be able to make a run in the 5A ranks, and certainly they can match up with Denver East athlete for athlete. All right, let's go to Class 4A, and the upset of the tournament so far, and the only #1 seed in either 4A or 5A girls to go down. Thomas Jefferson knocks off Pueblo South. I've seen TJ a bunch. I know you've seen TJ a bunch. There's no question the talent is there. The consistency hasn't been there. Perhaps they're playing their best ball of the year.
Yeah, TJ has really all the pieces to match up with a team like Denver South or Valor Christian potentially in the state title game. Trey Andres, he has been criticized for not always bringing it every game, but he's a 6'7", 240-pound physical specimen with all the tools you need. He's versatile, skilled, athletic. He could really, and he's got tons of athletes around him. So TJ really, they could give Valor Christian a real run for their money potentially in the state title game.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Of course, Grant Lehman, a couple of state championships as head coach there at TJ. Now, Andres only averaging 15 points per game, had 23 in the victory against Pueblo South, but there's no question he can be a dominant player when he wants to. That'll be an interesting matchup with Denver South in one of those grade 8 games. You've seen a lot of Thompson Valley this year. You're a Loveland guy. Where does Thompson Valley fit in?
Well, interestingly, Thompson Valley probably had the easiest region. They've got 8 seniors. Their freshman year, several of them were playing varsity, and they only went 2-21, and now they're a 23-1 team, and they've put it all together. Estevan Garcia and Grant Rohrbuck are 2 of the best defensive guards in 4A, and Colin Smith is a skilled player who can be a really very much a force on offense, and Thompson Valley could really make the state title game and play Thomas Jefferson or Denver South potentially really tough.
I think they're definitely a title contender. Haven't seen them play a couple of times, and that is a great story. Again, just the 2 wins 3 years ago, and to come back, a group of 8 seniors. That's all the deeper they go. And to have a chance to make a run here, and only the 1 loss in the season, which again came to Fossil Ridge. That was back in the month of December. A final thought of Valor Christian. Where do the Eagles stack up? 1 in-state loss that came to Rangeview last week.
Valor Christian still has to be the favorites overall in 4A because last year, of course, they lost in the state title game to Lewis Palmer. But Chase Foster is as good as any player in 4A. Christian McCaffrey is as athletic, as we know from football, as any player, and he's a really good defensive guard. Garrett Baggett is a lights-out shooter, and Ronnie DeGray, their coach, is fantastic. So Valor Christian absolutely has to be the favorites still in 4A, and they've been the best team all year.
And you mentioned that championship pedigree. It comes over from that football field with McCaffrey, but they were in Boulder last year playing for a state championship. So you know that once they get under the bright lights, if they get under the bright lights there at the Coors Event Center in Boulder, they're not going to wilt under that pressure. Brock, thanks so much. We appreciate you coming in, and we'll get you on again.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Appreciate it.
That's Brock Laue. He's from ChatsANow.com, also writes for Rivals. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we'll put a wrap on the program and take a look at next week. Stay with us. You're on the Xfinity Sports Report.